Hello everyone, Amod here from Target Common YouTube channel. Let's understand these topics in this video. What is CSS? What is CSS Selector? Are CSS and CSS Selector same? Why do we use CSS Selector in Selenium WebDriver or any front-end automation testing tool? I have a simple login page here with username, password text boxes and a login button. It might serve the purpose, that is getting user logged into the application, but it does not give any better look and feel experience to user. That means we need to add styling to these wave elements so that it can look better. Something like this. We have proper alignment, we have better font size, color, background color, etc. So how can we achieve this? For this, we need to use CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheet. So basically, if you want to create a web page, we use HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, to create web elements like button, text boxes, headers, drop downs, etc. But if you want to add styling to those web elements like background color, font color, or alignment, we need to use CSS. Now let's try to add CSS to this login page. So suppose I want to have some different background color for this login button. So for that, we need to add CSS, and we have multiple ways to do that. One way is inline CSS. That means this is the tag name, and here I can add one attribute called style. And we have many properties in CSS. For example, if you want to add background color to any web element, we have a property called background hyphen color. So let's use background hyphen color. Then use colon. Then we need to pass value to this property. That means what background color you want. For color, we need to pass hex representation of color. So for example, I want red background. So I need to pass hex representation of red, which is has FF0000. Save it, and if you go to Chrome, you can see background color of login button is red. You can add more than one properties as well. Like I want to set the font size. That means we see login text. We can change or update the font size of this login text. So for that, we have one property called font-size. So to pass another property, use semicolon as delimiter and use font-size colon, then pass the value which will be in pixels. So I'm going to set as 18 pixel. Save it, and if you go to Chrome, you can see login text looks bigger. So this is one of the way to style any web element, which is called inline styling. But it is possible we might have multiple buttons. For example, I'm going to duplicate this line and paste below, and this time I will have forgot password. So in Chrome, I can see I have two buttons now and they have similar styling. So suppose you want to modify this styling, then you need to modify each and every button, which is not a proper way. So we have another way to set style. It means go up to the head tag, and here you need to define one new tag called style. Now problem is how you will target web element. That means I want to add styling to a web element or a list of web elements. In short, how your DOM will understand which element should be styled. Here we don't have any confusion because we are embedding styling within the tag itself. But when we define style in head, we need to explicitly tell DOM how to look for web element. So for that, we need to use selector, which can be called as CSS selector. So selector is the way to locate a web element within DOM. So there are many CSS selectors, and we are going to see few of them now. So basically, I want to add style to all buttons. So here we need to use tag name, which is button, and use opening and closing braces. So this selector will find all buttons within DOM. Now you need to copy these properties and paste it here. Let's copy the second one and paste here. And let's remove this style attribute from here. Let's save it, and if you go to Chrome, you can see similar style has been applied. So if you want to add or modify CSS properties, you need to modify here. It will be applicable for all buttons. Suppose you want to apply same styling to other web elements also. For example, label. Then you can copy this tag, put a comma after button and paste here. save it, and if you see here, username and password labels are in red. So this is also one CSS selector. Let's see one more example of CSS selector. I have two input text boxes, one for username and one for password. And I want to add some styling to password text box only. So for that, I need to uniquely identify password text box so that I can apply CSS on that. If you see source code for username text box, I have ID, and for password also I have ID. So using ID, I can uniquely identify password text box. It means I can use hash symbol here with value password. Now I can add any property. Let's add this background color. And if you go to Chrome, you can see password text box is in red background. So this is also one of the CSS selector. So now what is the use of this CSS selector in front-end automation testing tools like Selenium WebDriver IO, Playwright, etc. So basically, CSS Selector is not provided by any front-end web automation testing tool. CSS Selector was developed to identify any web element uniquely or a group of web elements so that CSS styling can be applied. And if you talk about any web automation testing tool, they perform actions on these web elements through code like a real user, but they don't visualize like we visualize here. They read DOM and try to locate the web element on which they need to perform action. This is very basic of any web automation testing tool. So these tools provide multiple ways to locate web elements, and CSS Selector is also one of them. But the purpose is little different here. These automation tools uses CSS Selector to identify web elements to perform action on that, not the styling. So let's get started. So I have created one sample HTML page where we can practice different types of CSS selectors. Let me inspect this page first. We want to write CSS selector for this header. If you inspect this header, you can find that it has been created using h1. So we can use this tag name also as CSS selector. To verify whether my CSS set is proper or not, we can press Ctrl F, and then at the bottom you can see find by string, selector or xpath. This section I have already used multiple times in my previous videos and especially in xpath series. So if you want to write xpath for this tag name, so I need to use /h1. But in CSS selector, we don't need to use any slashes. That means you can directly use h1. But in this tool, you can see it is highlighting one of four. So you can see it is highlighting this one also. Then it is highlighting closing tag as well. If you press enter, you can find some other H1s as well, which we don't want. So why it is happening? Because this search box will work for string as well. So H1 it is taking as a string and highlighting all H1s. So what is the another way we can validate our CSS selector? For that, you can go to console tab, then type dollar, and within this use single quote or double quotes and just put the tag name and close it. Hit enter. So you can see it is giving you one web element h1 with the text CSS selectors test page, which I want basically. So if you want to use this CSS selector in your Selenium script, then it's very easy. I have already created a basic script to load Chrome browser and my HTML page. Here I need to use Chrome driver dot find element, then use by class, and here we have one method called CSS selector. Like for every locator we have different methods. So for CSS also we have different method called CSS selector. Select it and pass the selector, which is h1. Once element is found, I am going to extract text. So get text and let me directly print it instead of storing into a variable and then printing it out. Run it. So here we can see it is printing my desired h1 text. Now let's move to another CSS selector example. Let me inspect this submit button, and you can see it has been created using a button tag and it contains ID. So if you want to create a CSS selector for a web element which contains an ID, we can use hash symbol and then give the ID value, which is submit hyphen button. Copy it, paste it here. So you can see it is highlighting one of one web element. Or suppose you want to have more proper locator, that means you want to look for a button where you have ID, right? So for that, let's remove it. Use the tag which is button here and put the hash and give the ID value, which is submit button. So this CSS locator will find a button where we have ID value equal to submit hyphen button. If I put input instead of button, so it will not highlight any element because we don't have any input element where we have ID value equal to submit hyphen button. Let's move on. For the same button, we have another attribute called class and value is highlight. So if you want to write CSS selector for a web element which contains a class, then we have a simple way. Press Ctrl F and use dot and pass the class name, which is highlight. So you can see it is highlighting total 3 web elements. First one is button where we have class attribute and value is highlight. If you hit enter, you can see it is highlighting another input web element where it has a class and class attribute has value highlight, but we have another class name as well. So this locator will find all the web elements where class attribute contains highlight. If you hit enter, then it is highlighting here, which is CSS selector actually, which is part of my HTML code. So basically we have total 2 web elements only, which is matching this CSS selector. If you want to get exact count, you can go to console tab and here I can use two dollar symbols and in double quotes or single quotes put dot highlight and close the parenthesis. So you can see it is giving you total 2 web elements. One is button, another is input. So using $2 is shorthand of using document.query selector all method. If you use single dollar, that is document.query selector, we will get the first matching web element. For example, here instead of double dollars, I am going to remove one. So now you can see it is giving you only one web element, which is button. That is first matching web element. We can obviously use tag, that means button dot highlight. That means it is going to locate all the buttons where we have class value as highlight. If you see this input tag, here I have two classes. So now if you want to locate those web elements using CSS selector where you have multiple classes. So whatever approach we follow for one class, same approach we need to follow for multiple classes. That means let's copy this form control class name, remove the button and then use dot, put the class name. So now you can see it is highlighting only one web element where we have both the classes. Order does not matter. It is going to see if both classes are present in any web element. So I hope this is clear. If you see these text boxes where we have attributes like name, type and placeholder. So we can use attributes as well in CSS Selector to locate web element. For example, this input tag can be located using any of these attributes. So if you want to locate input where name is username, then you can use tag name, which is input, then use two square brackets, give the attribute name, which is name, and value you need to give after putting equal to, and in the single quote or double quote, whatever you want to use, put the value, which is username. So you can see it is highlighting. You can omit this as well, like you want to locate all those elements where we have name attribute with value username. So let me remove this one. Still you can see it is highlighting. Now it is possible that one attribute might not be enough to locate any element uniquely. So we may need to use more than one. So whatever approach we follow for one attribute, I need to use similar approach for another attributes as well. For example, I want to use this placeholder attribute as well. So copy the attribute name, put square brackets, attribute name, and then keep the value in single quotes. So now you can see it is highlighting the desired one. If you change anything here, like remove the E, then you can see it is not highlighting any element. So using this approach, you can combine more than one attributes. So in this case, both attributes will be checked with the values. It is AND. If any attribute is not matching, then it will not locate that web element. So this is AND. Now you might have requirement that either check this value or that value. For example, look for the web element where name attribute has value user email or placeholder value is this one. So let me use user email here. As of now, you can see it is AND. That's why it is not highlighting any web element. So to use with OR, we need to use comma. in between these two square brackets. So now you can see it is highlighting total two elements. First one, second one. And this works with Selenium WebDriver as well. Let me show demo. So Control A, Control C, let me directly use this out. So Chrome driver dot find elements by dot CSS selector and pass the selector here, and then let me call size method. So we are expecting that it should return me total two elements. In fact, count. So you can see it is two. Let me remove the second one. So whenever we are using these attributes, so this is always exact match, like name must be equal to user email. But sometimes we may need to use with partial matching. That means my name attribute should start with user. And if you write only like this, it is not going to locate, because here we are using equal. So if you want to use starts with, then use caret symbol. So here you can see it is highlighting total two elements. First one here where it starts with user, and if you hit enter, you can see here also it starts with user. Again, it is case sensitive. If I use capital U, so it is not highlighting any element. Similarly, if you want to locate web element where any attribute value ends with some specific string, then instead of caret operator, we can use dollar. So now you can see it is highlighting fourth input element, because here name attribute ends with user. So we have covered starts with, ends with. Now you don't bother whether it starts or ends. Your requirement it should contain. Then we need to use start. Then you can see it is highlighting three web elements. Here also we have user. Here also we have user. And here also we have user in name attribute. So we can combine multiple CSS selectors using comma. For example, I can write ID CSS selector. That means hash, then give the ID value. Then you want to write CSS selector for another web element because you want to locate everything together. Then use comma, and maybe I can use input, then attribute name is name, and value will be username. So now you can see it is highlighting two web elements. First one is button where we have ID, and second one this input text box. So a pseudo class in a CSS selector is a keyword which will help you to locate a web element based on their state or position. Like you want to locate a checked checkbox or radio button. Similarly, if you want to locate disabled text box, or you want to write CSS selector for nth-child or first child. Let's see these CSS selectors in examples so that you can understand it much better. So this is the same HTML page which I have created for previous video, and same I am going to use for this video as well. Let me inspect this web page. If you expand this div, within this div only we have all the web elements. Let me expand this div where we have id equal to main, and here we have multiple web elements. Basically, this is parent, and then these are children of div. So this button is first child of div. This input is second child of this div. Similarly, this p is first child of this div. So we have one pseudo class called first-child. So use Control F, and for any pseudo class we need to use colon and give the pseudo class name, which is first-child. So you can see it is finding total 11 elements. First one, which is itself HTML. If you hit enter, so it is highlighting head. So within this HTML, let me close everything. Head comes first. So head is the first child of HTML. If you hit enter, then it is highlighting meta. Why? Because meta is first child of head. So this pseudo class will highlight all the first child. So this is very generic. You don't want to highlight all first child, but you want to highlight with a specific tag. That means highlight first child if it is h1. Then before this pseudo class name, we can put tag name like h1. So now you can see it is highlighting only one element. That means it says give me the tag h1 which is first child. It does not matter who is parent. It might be any tag. And if you're wondering whether this will be supported in Selenium WebDriver or not, so let's try it. I'm going to copy this locator, go to IntelliJ. Here I have basic script ready from my previous video. So let me comment this line and I'm going to write sysout chrome driver dot find element by dot CSS selector. Put the CSS selector here. Then let me extract text. So get text, save it and run it. So you can see it is printing the text. So Selenium supports these kinds of CSS selector as well. So similar to first child, we have another pseudo class called last-child. So let me remove h1 and instead of first keep the last. I forgot to put colon. So now we have total 11 again. So first one HTML, which is starting tag. Go to next one by hitting enter key. So you can see it is highlighting this style tag because within this head tag we have style which is last child. If you hit enter again, it is highlighting this one because this input is the last child of this label. So basically it is going to highlight all the last child of a parent. If you want a specific one like input, so you can put input then colon. So it is highlighting only two, which is here. It is the last child of label. So basically label has only one child. So which is first and last as well. If you hit enter, we have another label, same case here. So let me show you whether this CSS selector works in Selenium WebDriver or not. So copy this, go to IntelliJ, and here I can write out Chrome driver dot find elements by dot CSS selector. Give the CSS selector and let's print the size, which should return me 2. Save it, run it. So we have 2 in the console. So similar to first child or last child, we have nth child. So nth hyphen child, and here you need to pass in number, maybe 3. And again, I forgot to put colon. Before any pseudo class, we need to put colon. So you can see it is highlighting total 6 elements. First one is title because this is third child of head. If you hit enter, then it is highlighting this input. Why? Because this input is third child of this div. If you click enter, then again it is highlighting this li because this is third item of ul. So here it is position, first, second, third. It is not index. We have one more pseudo class which is only hyphen child. That means if you want to find all those elements which are only child of the parent, then we can use colon only hyphen child. So it is finding 4 elements. First one is HTML. Go to next one. Here it is highlighting this input. Why? Because this input is only child of this label. Now go to next one. And here also we have same case because this input is only child of this label. So basically we can get first child, last child, nth child or only child elements using pseudo classes. So when we use nth child, it is counting from first. But if you want to count from the last, then we have another pseudo class called nth hyphen last hyphen child. And here I am to give number or position. So let me put 2. So you can see it is finding 6 elements. Let's see first one. So here it is highlighting title. So if you close this style, you can see head is parent and within this parent we have 4 children. So meta is first, this meta is second, then we have title third and this style fourth from up. But from last, this style will be first and this title will be second. So here I am using nth last child. That's why this title is getting highlighted. Let's go to next one. It is highlighting div. So let me close this one. And this body has 3 children, h1, div and script. So again same logic. From the last, this div is second child. That's why it is getting highlighted. So I hope this is clear. We have another pseudo class called not. So let's see one scenario. Here we have multiple input boxes where type is text. So I want to locate all these input text boxes, but not the third one where name equal to full name. So for this, I can use input with type text. So as of now, it is highlighting total 5 because all these input tags have type equal to text. But I want to ignore this full name. So copy this name value, put colon, then use not and use the square bracket. Now I'm going to use input again square brackets, attribute name is name equal to value. So here it is not highlighting because I have used square bracket instead of parenthesis. So after not, I need to use parenthesis. So now you can see it is highlighting only 4 elements. If we hit enter, second one, third one, and it ignored this one. So this is use of not pseudo class. So within not parenthesis, you need to pass locators which you want to ignore or you want to exclude. Now let's see some state-based pseudo classes. Like here, this checkbox is checked. So basically, I can use this type to locate this one. So input type equal to checkbox. So we have two matching elements, but I want checked one. So I need to use one pseudo class called checked. So use colon and pass checked. So now it is highlighting only one, which is checked. So if you have doubt that this might not be supported in Selenium WebDriver, let's try it. So copy this, go to IntelliJ and sys out Chrome driver dot find element this time by dot CSS selector, pass the selector value, and maybe let's extract attribute value, maybe ID. Let's run it. So you can see it is printing ID value. Similarly, the second checkbox is disabled. So if you want to write CSS selector for disabled checkbox, we have another pseudo class called disabled, and you can see it is highlighting the second one. Similar to first one, Selenium WebDriver will also support this CSS selector. You can give it a try. There are few more pseudo classes like first of type, last of type, and nth of type. By the name, you can understand what is the usage. So for example, this div has multiple children. So within parent, if you want to get first, last, or nth child of a specific type, then we can use these pseudo classes. So suppose here I want to get first button child. I'm not bothered in which position they exist, but give me the first button child. So press Ctrl F, then use tag button, then use pseudo class which is first of type. So you can see it is highlighting this button. Or let's use input. So you can see it is highlighting the second child which is input. Similarly, we have last of type. So this time you can see it is highlighting the last one. And again we have nth of type. So here I need to pass position, so let it pass 2. So you can see this one is highlighted because we have total 5 input children and this one comes second. So again this position is from top, you can do from last as well. So just use nth hyphen last. So this time this input is highlighted because this input is the second last input child of this div. So these are the pseudo classes I have seen in CSS Selector, and these are really helpful if elements have fixed position or structure. And in this video tutorial, we are going to write CSS Selector for web elements which require traversing. So what do we understand by traversing? So when we navigate from one node to another node within a DOM or HTML document, that is called traversing, and this might be required in multiple scenarios. Let's see one example. I will launch amazon.com and search for a product, maybe iPhone. Here it gives you a list of product. If I ask you, give me price. The first question you will ask me, for which product. So obviously I need to provide you the name of product so that you can give me the price. So here we have title of the product, and then these details are like ratings, price, and delivery details are related to this item. Same thing for others. So we can say that all these informations are dependent on this or associated with this product title. If I inspect this page, and let's inspect this title, and if you move your cursor up, you can find that this div is basically representing one product. So within this div, we have like title, then reviews, then if you further you go down, you will see the price information. So if you want to get the price or review rating of any product, we need to traverse from title to the desired section. Or we can inspect this item price directly, and then we can also traverse up to find the title. But in CSS Selector, it is not possible to traverse from child node to parent node. In XPath, we can traverse from parent node to child node and vice versa. But that is not possible in case of CSS Selector. In CSS Selector, we can always traverse in forward direction. That means parent to child. And also CSS Selector does not support to locative element with text value. That means we can use this text information to write XPath, but that is not possible in case of CSS Selector. Let's learn forward traversing in CSS Selector with simple examples. Here I have a list with multiple items, and some items have their own sub-items. Like we have item 1, item 2, then item 3 and 4 and 5. Item 2 has their own sub-item 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and sub-item 2.3 has their own sub-items. If we inspect this page, then we have the main list. Under this main list, we have 5 li. So we can say this UL has 5 children. If we expand second one, so this child has its own children, which is here. If we expand it, this UL, which is nested list 2, has 3 children. So we can say that these li are grandchildren of this UL. Or in other terms, we can say this li or these 5 li's are direct child of UL, but this li is subchild of this UL. Now let's see how can we traverse. Press Ctrl F. So let's close everything. So we know that HTML document starts with HTML tag. So let's use HTML. And here we have multiple children of HTML. Suppose you want to navigate to this body, which is second child. So give the space and type the tag name, which is body. So you can see body part is highlighted. Let's expand it. Let's go to this UL. So again space, put UL. If you want to go to this li, you can again type li. So you can see it is finding 12 web elements. So let's remove everything. So let's start with UL. And when we typed UL, it is going to find 7 web elements. Let's hit enter, see what it is finding. So we had one UL here. Then we have nested UL, which is also being highlighted. Same thing here. But I don't want to highlight or find all the UL. I want the desired one. So if you see this first UL has ID as well. So let's copy this ID and you can use hash symbol and put the ID value. This I have already explained in my previous video. So now you can see it is finding only one and that is only highlighted. Now, if you give space and give li, then you can see it is finding 12 web elements. First one is this one. If we hit enter, it is highlighting the second one. Hit enter, it went to the subchild or grandchildren of this well. If you hit enter again, it will go to the next subchild. So when we use white space as a separator, then it is going to find all children. That may be direct child or subchild, which we saw here. But if you want to find only direct child, for that instead of space we can use greater than symbol. And now if you see, it is only finding 5 web elements. So if you hit enter, you can see how it is being highlighted one by one. Greater than symbol will ensure to find only direct child, but if you're using white space, then it will going to find all direct child and subchild. Obviously, you can use different concepts of CSS selector here, like let me use greater than symbol, and it is finding 5 web elements, but I want third one. So I can use pseudo-class for that colon nth-child. And here I can put the position, which is 3. So it is giving me only one web element and it is highlighting the third child. Or if you want to use some attribute, if you expand this li, here I have one name attribute with value item 3. So let's copy this value and here I can again use square brackets attribute name, which is name, and then give the value in single quote or double quote. So it is highlighting one of one. So basically this UL has 5 children and if I want to select a child which is adjacent to another child. For example, I want to select this li which is adjacent to this li. For example, I'm going to remove this thing here and As of now, it is finding 5 elements, but I want to locate that li where we have name equal to item 2. So let me copy this value and here put the condition name equal to item 2. So it is highlighting the second li. This is one reference. Using this reference, I want to get the next child, which is just adjacent. That means this li. So for that, you need to use plus sign and then put the tag or any CSS selector. So here I want to have li. So now you can see it is highlighting third li, which is adjacent to second li. Suppose you put here like name equal to item 4, which is not the adjacent child. This is at number 4. So you can see it is not being highlighted. But if you give it 3, then it will be highlighted. But suppose if you want to get the fourth one here, then again you can use plus and put the li. So now you can see it is highlighting fourth web element. These locators are helpful when you know the position of a node, which might be changing, but it will be always adjacent to a specific node. Let's see one last concept of CSS selector in this video. Here I have one heading. Let me inspect this. Under this div, we have multiple web elements like h2, then we have p, span, then again p. So let me traverse from div to h2 and I'm going to use greater than symbol. So it is highlighting only 1. So once we reach to h2, we want to get all p's. That means within this div, we have 3p. If you use plus symbol, then it will only find the adjacent one. That means only one in this case. But I want all three. So instead of plus, we can use tilde. So now you can see it is finding total 3 and first one is highlighted. If you hit enter, it is highlighting the second P, and if you hit enter again, then this is the last P. So plus and tilde both are to find the sibling within the same parent, but plus will always do for adjacent one, but tilde can be used for any sibling within that parent. But those siblings must be present after the current node. That means if any P is available before this H2, that will not be found. And if you want to get all siblings after H2, then you can use comma and then put the another tag like a span. So now you can see it is finding 4 web elements. If you hit enter, it is highlighting all siblings. Let me quickly add 1p before h2. So let's copy this and paste it before h2 and I can put like before the h2. It has been reloaded. Press Ctrl F. Let me remove span only p. So now you can see it is only finding 3 p's. It is not highlighting the p which is before h2. In this video tutorial, I will discuss limitations of CSS Selector locator, and also this video will be last on CSS Selector topic in this playlist. So CSS Selector is one of the widely used locator across different front-end web automation tools like Selenium WebDriver, Cypress WebDriver IO, and Playwright if you want to use. So basically, whatever front-end web automation tool supports CSS Selector, we can use there. But CSS Selector has major limitations which we are going to discuss now. First of all, CSS Selector was developed to locate and style web elements. It was not intended to use for front-end web automation tools, but front-end web automation tools used CSS Locator to perform actions on web elements, which is great. But CSS Selector was developed to locate elements based on their structural and attributes rather than their inner contents. What do we understand by this? I have a web page here, and if we inspect this page, so here you can see we have one tag h1 with some inner text. So CSS Selector can be created using this tag h1, but if you want to use this inner text to construct CSS Selector, that is not possible. For example, press Ctrl F. So let's see XPath. If I want to use this text to create XPath, so you can copy this text value and type /h1, and then we have a function text and we can pass the inner text value here. So you can see it is highlighting. But same thing we cannot do in CSS Selector because CSS Selector does not support inner text. And now you understand the reason. So this is the first major limitations. Second limitation is traversing. So using CSS Selector, we can traverse from parent node to child node, but vice versa we cannot do. That means from child node to parent node we cannot traverse. But in XPath we can traverse in forward direction and backward direction as well. For example, under this UL we have two LIs. So suppose if you are using XPath, then we can locate all LI like this, and we can type slash and do dot dot. So we can traverse to its parent. But this is not possible in CSS Selector. We can only do forward traversing. That means we can go to UL to LI, but we cannot go from LI to UI. Let me show you one example. So on the Amazon.com, I have searched for iPhone, and if my requirement is to get all the product names which has 4 and above ratings. So we have multiple approaches here. You can iterate all the products one by one and then get the rating. If it is 4 and above, then you can filter it out, and that will be very lengthy code. But if you can inspect these ratings in such a way that whatever ratings are 4 and above, we can locate that, and then we can traverse to its parent to get the title of my product. So using the locator itself, we can get the details. This will be possible only using XPath, but with the CSS selector, you cannot traverse from this review wave element to its product title. And believe me, we might have many scenarios where we need to traverse from child to parent. So in those scenarios, CSS cannot be used. And again, this is major limitations of CSS selector. And another major limitation is indexing. For example, when we write a CSS selector and we get more than one matching elements, then there is no way we can say I need the first one or second one. For example, if I write xpath like slash slash li, so it is giving me 4 wave elements, but I don't want everything. I want second one or third one. Then we can put this locator within parentheses and we can use index like 2. So now you can see it is highlighting only the one wave element, and that is the second one. But this is not possible in CSS selector. We can use indexing for specific type or nth-child and all, but we cannot put indexing on overall font wave elements. So obviously you have way like you can use find wave elements and there you can use indexing, but that you are doing through script. But using the locator itself, you cannot control that in CSS selector. So these are three major limitations of CSS selector. First one, it does not support inner text. Second one, we cannot traverse from child to parent. Third one, we cannot use indexing with CSS selector. So that's all in this video. If you have any doubt, please comment on this video. If you really like my videos, please like, comment, subscribe and share with others. Thank you everyone.